All right, welcome everybody. In lead up to the Meantime program, last year we did a series of roundtables about fast cash tactics, inviting my colleagues to share their best ways to generate cash. But one of the major purposes of the Meantime is to generate space in people's lives. And I've realized recently that even more fundamental than ethics is space, even more fundamental than um what I used to think was the fundament is having enough room in your life that if you actually don't have any room in your life, physically, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, temporally, nothing else happens. And so that was the theme that I asked colleagues to come together today to talk about in the roundtable is how do we create space? How do we create room? So very first coming up on the docket, we've got Gemma Gilbert from the UK talking about boundaries and this notion of how do you design your red, your amber, and green boundary zones to prioritize creative space and productivity and curb overgiving tendencies without overthinking. I met Gemma years ago and we just became pals. She came to my live workshop in London, which I think was our first time meeting in person. And we just got along so well, went for lunch, and it's a beautiful thing to meet somebody and just to feel like old friends already. And so we've gotten to hang out a couple of times, and a big fan of what she's doing. She co-presented at my Camden retreat in London, which was just last year, and she has so much to share. So this is for all the presenters. What you're getting is the very tip of the iceberg of what they have. Um, And so when you introduce yourself, maybe if you can give your website so that people know where to find you. And of course, for all of you, if you have anything coming up you want people to know about, please let them know. But we'll start off with you, Gemma. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for that lovely introduction, Tad. Are you going to time me? Am I going to have to time myself? You're going to
Um,
roughly time me.
the if you can also all time yourselves, probably good. Oh, I suppose we should talk about that. Let's just imagine you've got 12 minutes, and we'll roll like that.
Fabulous. Cool. Hello, everyone. I am Gemma. My website is gemmagilbert.com in that egocentric way. Well, my email address is gemma@gemmagilbert.com. I just do one thing. I have one program. I help people design group programs and scale them. And I guess how this ties into this whole idea of spaciousness and simplicity is that I realized that a diary of one-on-one calls ultimately led me to burnout. I'm a massive introvert slash recluse slash love being home and not with people. So doing lots of one-on-one calls massively erodes my energy. And I just realized that model wasn't sustainable. And so I found my sweet spot in just having one program, 2 calls a week. Everyone is served in that. And that has allowed me to have this beautiful balance of a 25-hour work week, which I know for many people is the dream, right? And I really feel grateful for the work-life balance I have curated. And today I'm sharing about boundaries, which is a topic close to my heart. I literally didn't know these existed until a couple of years ago. So it was a bit of a heavy bump into the world of boundaries, and I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to share something a little bit controversial today about people pleasers. Can everybody see this? Can you just give me a thumbs up that you can see this? Yeah. I am going to convince you today that this lovely idea of people pleasing that we have, where we think about others and we're super kind, is actually emotional deception and what leads to incredibly inauthentic relationships. My personal relationship to boundaries was this. People pleasing destroyed my marriage. I didn't realize this till afterwards. I just thought it was all his fault because he was incredibly lazy. But what I did was people please my way through my marriage. So when my husband felt uncomfortable with something I was doing, for example, seeing friends, I didn't like him being in pain, so I would stop seeing my friends. When I saw myself doing the lion's share of the housework, I didn't share that I felt resentful because I thought, well, he doesn't seem to notice his stuff as much as me. I need the house to be tidy. So that's for my own mental well-being. So I shouldn't share this resentment. I shouldn't try and change someone else. And if you do that for 10 years, If you people please your way through a relationship, what you basically end up doing is creating a lot of resentment, which will play into disconnection with that person. Ultimately, the price of keeping peace is inauthenticity because we avoid uncomfortable conversations and we avoid saying the thing because we don't want to hurt the other person. We don't want them to be in pain. We would rather take on their pain instead and take an over responsibility for them, and therefore also try and control what they think of us at the same time. And there's not a happy end to this story. Me and my ex-husband got divorced. And, I learned a lot about my role and responsibility of being authentic in relationships and having the uncomfortable conversation. When we're people pleasing, often what we think we're doing is being incredibly supportive. And in a business landscape, we're providing a great service. We're being available. We're being understanding of where our clients are struggling. We're being accommodating. We're being kind. Actually, what in reality we're doing in a relationship or in a business is we're creating codependency, right? If you overgive, you're inviting those people to come to you again and again and again. And you end up creating resentment, which is incredibly unkind because the other person doesn't know you're doing it. So you're just collecting these feelings to yourself and holding them to yourself. And ultimately, what you're then doing is enabling patterns. Because if you answered that client at 10 p.m. one night, well, they have this expectation, well, how come you're not answering me the next night? And it's the same in your relationships. If when your partner had an uncomfortable feeling that first time and you bent for it, why didn't you do it the second time? And ultimately, what this leads to is destroying trust because that person cannot feel confident that when you say yes, you actually mean yes. Because how do they know you didn't actually mean no, but you just didn't have the confidence to have the uncomfortable conversation and say that in the first place? So, this is what I put to you today. People pleasing isn't kindness, it's in fact incredibly selfish. In fact, if we go further than that, it's a form of emotional fraud because what you're not allowing that person to do is actually have an authentic relationship with you. And I'm using dramatic language just to make the topic of boundaries a little bit more exciting than the reality of it, and to shock you. But when I was thinking through this today, I was thinking about how inauthentic it is when you don't trust that someone can take exactly who you are and to understand where your hard lines are, where your soft lines are, and when your middly lines are, and that they will love you anyway. And that's the same for clients, it's the same for friends, it's the same for relationships. So, in fact, clear boundaries are kind, and people pleasing is cruel. Now, the reason boundaries are so kind is because they create psychological safety. There is nothing better for me in a friendship when I know that if it gets to the day where I'm meeting someone and they don't want to do it, that they will just say, I don't want to come. And I'll be like, cool, yeah, me neither. I'm so glad we were both authentic with each other. And it's the same with our clients. When we tell them, like, this is how I can hold you, and this is how I can support you, and this is the limits of what I can do. And that builds a sustainable relationship because it's based on truth and it's based on trust. And when you do that, that allows for genuine connection. And I believe the reason I have such deep relationships with my clients is because I am so clear on what I can and I can't do. Okay. Oh, gone the wrong way. Here's the challenge. In our business, day to day, when we are overloaded, exhausted, tired, it's really hard to make these decisions on the fly. So when a client says, I'm desperately in need of help, can you talk to me today or tomorrow, which somebody did to me last week? And I was looking at my calendar and I had no space today or tomorrow, and I knew they were really stuck. And my hard boundary is I don't do client calls on a Friday. And I was like, oh, they really need help. They really need help. Maybe I should just weigh in on this. And I had a choice at that point. Do I honor my boundaries, which maintain my health, my sanity, my mental health? Or do I honor their need? And that's the people-pleasing tendency that so many of us have. And that's why we went into all these beautiful service-based businesses, because we want to help. And we've been conditioned to help. Because isn't it wonderful having a society where everybody wants to help, right? We need some fuck off energy. So This system is designed to take the emotional decision away. And the idea is you design this in advance so that when the client says, "Can you fit me in?" Well, it's easy. No, I do not have space because I've already decided that my hard boundary is I don't do client calls on a Friday. So the first zone is the red zone. That's a super bright red. This is your non-negotiable zone. And this is the stuff that completely drains your energy. It violates your core values. It can put your health at risk and it can compromise your key relationships. That all makes it sound very dramatic, but it can also just be a decision. So I made a decision. I don't do client calls on Monday and I don't do them on Friday. I only have time to meet Tuesday to Thursday. That's the core thing, right? And my health is my priority. So I work a 25-hour work week and I'm not going to work more than that. So I have to design a business model that fulfills that. And my family is the thing that comes first. So I'm never going to work past 5 p.m. This is the one exception to this, right? Because Tad inviting me to do this falls into my amber zone, right? This is your flex space. Your flex space is basically, this is generally a no, but you can change your mind on this one. So my normal rule is I don't work the evenings. My brain is mush by this time. I had to like drink a cup of tea and seriously like do some star jumps before this session to even be coherent. But I like Tad. I like the idea of coming together in a small group. So this is a choice I can flex on. So you do it, but with clear conditions, right? So I knew this week I had to be really compassionate with myself because tonight's going to be a late night for me and I'm normally in bed by 9. You also need advance notice, right? So it's easy for me to commit to something like this a month in advance and plan for it. If it's a client thing that you're going to flex with, like someone wants me to come do a speaking thing and it's going to take a shed load of energy, I'm probably going to charge them a lot more for it. And I'm going to have really strict time limits on my energy. And finally, you've got your green zone, and this is your sweet spot. This is the stuff that you want to be doing, that energizes you, aligns with your goals, creates sustainable growth, and maintains your well-being. The better you get to know yourself, the easier it is to make these decisions when they come, and you feel less like you're flying by the seat of your pants, and more that you're like, oh, cool, that's in my green zone, that's a yes. That's in my red zone, that's a hard no. And you will have such better relationships with friends, your romantic partner, your clients when you get good at this. But your boundaries are going to piss some people off. So be prepared for that. And that is their shit, not yours, right? If someone gets offended by your boundary, that's the work they need to do because you're triggering something in them. We won't go deep into this psychology now, and I know I'm running out of time. So your single most impactful action that you could do today that's going to free up space and creative time in your calendar is write down your absolute red zones, because the more time you spend building resentment, the less time you're going to spend productive and doing the things you love in your business. And that is me. Now, if you want to find me, here's a gift for you. This is happening this week. So by the time you watch this, this is finished, but it means that when you put in your details, you just get to watch the replay, which is even better. This is my signature 3-part workshop series. It's my whole method that takes you through designing a great group program, filling it with clients, and shifting it to an evergreen format so you can run it without launches.
Gemma, beautiful. My gosh, at 11 minutes, that was just tight. Now, Gemma, I know it's late and you may need to go and you got your family, so consider yourself released. And this is a good example, actually, of the yellow zone. When Gemma responded, she said, well, could I go first because it's so late? Yeah. And so it's a way of taking care of oneself in the amber zone. A few thoughts occurred before we pass it on to Carlos. Um, the language I use often is this collapsing and posturing, that these are two of the patterns people tend to fall into. And that for a lot of the hippies, we look at the posturing, this is like, oh God, don't let me be like one of those people. I don't want to be like one of those. And this is the complaints that people come to me with is went to this marketing training, but it was really posturing stuff. So then there's this thought, well, collapsing must be more noble. It's imagined as an alternative to posturing, but collapsing is actually just a twin. It's the other side of the same coin, because both of them are driven by a certain, I use this cagily, but narcissism in the sense of the story of Narcissus, it's this man who upsets a goddess, gets cursed, and he looks in the water and falls in love with his reflection, and so much so that he drowns. And it gets taken to mean he loved himself too much, but it's actually he loved his reflection too much. He loved how he was seen by other people. And by posturing or collapsing, we attempt to get people to see us a certain way, but it ends up being, manipulative either way. And it comes from innocence, it comes from a lot of hurt and wounds that we've encountered. But there is another way of composure, and I think that's where the boundaries come in. Um, and the it also struck me the way that when clients come to us with needs, we often turn it into a job for us rather than just hearing it as a need. I was talking with a friend and she said, yeah, my mom really struggled when I was young. So clearly, since I was there, it was my job to take care of her. I said, well, maybe it was she needed support, but it wasn't your job. Because maybe at that age, well, certainly you weren't qualified to do it. And clients will come to us with needs, and it's worth dividing those two. It doesn't mean it's our job to do it. It just means it's a need they have. So anyway, that's my reflections on that. Next up, we've got Carlos Saba from the Happy Startup in England. So happy to have Carlos here. Uh, I got interviewed on the Happy Startup podcast a couple of years ago, I think, and they invited me to come to their Happy Startup summer camp in the UK, which I eventually made it to. And I've just got to say, if you live in Europe, particularly the UK, you can't not go to this event. It's one of the coolest things I've ever come across. I'm so overly opinionated about a lot of things, and particularly gatherings and workshops. I'm very hard to please, old man Hargrave, curmudgeon, all this, and it was a 10 out of 10. I couldn't find anything to complain about. And yeah, Gemma said my favorite business event ever. I would agree. I don't think I've gone to anything better for entrepreneurs. So check out their work. They also have a membership, and the work they do is fantastic. Just trying to bring some humanity and sustainability into the life of an entrepreneur. So, Carlos, it's a real joy to have you here. Over to you.
Thank you, Ted. I feel the only way is down now. The bar has been set. I love what Gemma just shared, and I don't know, it just resonates with some stuff I was talking today about staying in one's truth despite how it might upset someone else, and not shifting from what's important to you, even as a recovering people pleaser myself. It might be hurting, or that someone might be not reacting the way you'd like them to react to a decision or a boundary you're setting. So love that. I'm going to try and see if I can share my screen, Tad, if that's okay. Cool. Thank you very much. All right, let's see if this works. Boom. Right. Get rid of this. There. Okay. Can you see my good slides? Excellent. Right. So it's about creating space, and the approach I'm going to take to this is the assumption I'm going to make is you're not creating enough space because you're trying to do too many things. And maybe just kind of following on what Gemma was talking about, you haven't created boundaries that you're committed to keeping. And that's because you're finding it hard to prioritize. The amber, red, amber, green is like, what criteria am I using to define those three sections? So I'm going to present a way of thinking about it based on kind of the core of our work. And so starting off with a bit of our premise. Thank you, Tad. I love that idea, just like the way we look at work and life, and then how that some of the tools that we are trying to help people you or take on board in order to follow this view of business. And it's based on this idea of Excite strategy, and we have a little starter kit that we've created. I'll have to share the links with Tad later in terms of being able to download. It's a 70-page sort of like booklet that you can go through to do this work on your own. And next month on the 4th of February, we do our workshops. Brad and Tad, I have just really absorbed the idea of the signature workshop, and we have one called the Excite strategy, which is something that we're doing once a month to give people an idea of how this works. So I start off with this quote. And this is why, because a lot of people that I meet who, and I think Gemma alluded to this, we do this work because we want to help. And we're trying to, what does the world need? How can we actually solve problems out there, as opposed to what actually makes me come alive? Because a lot of the time, unless we know that, we end up just pouring from an empty cup, and that's what leads to burnout. And so kind of a big part of our work is how can we help people avoid the burnout, or if they've gone through burnout, not go back there again, kind of change the behavior, change the approach to the way they're going to work. And for me, it's an inside out versus an outside in approach to business. And we're trying to take people away from this outside in, which I'm also very guilty of having followed for a lot of my career, in terms of like, I want to help other people, I want to change things outside there, I want to meet the needs of the market, and actually not knowing what is it I want. And this is really a story, I think, a journey of helping people claim what they want so that they can say no to the things that they don't. And then that's how what creates space. And so this outside in approach, which is useful for businesses. And, you know, we used to run a startup studio and we followed the lean startup, and it's about solving problems and making sure their problems were solving. So it's outward looking, it's about driven by others' needs, it's about focusing on what moves in the market, it's about being conscious about the money. So these metrics of success that, you know, help you manage a profitable business, focused on getting feedback and listening to what people say. And a lot of the time, there's a well-trodden path you're following to success that you're trying to define, and it's not necessarily yours, but it's something that you've inherited by friends, family, society, culture, whoever it is. But you're like, that's how I get successful. The inside-out approach, alternatively, is a more embodied approach to business, and embodied in the sense that you're really learning the language of your limbic system. You're learning the language of what your body is telling you is what is enough and what is exciting, as opposed to thinking too much about it. And this is, for me, where you become more creative, because it's something that's stirring you rather than something that you're trying to react to. And it's something that is truly authentic, something that's yours rather than something that you're trying to copy. And because of that, because it's yours, because it feels like a vision that is true, and because it's your own path and you own it really fully, then you're going to protect it, and you're going to say, you know what to say no to, because you know what is in and what is out. And so it's really about what moves you, like I said, rather than what moves the market. And that's going to give a protective barrier from you doing more than you need to do, because you kind of define that. So what I want to do is kind of share, if you're not that kind of person who can instinctively do this, we were trying to put together some structures, some exercises for you to approach this, to kind of deconstruct this messy soup of what is it I really want, where is it I'm really going, and what is it I need to let go of, particularly if I feel like I'm being a bit of a busy fool right now. And so we've got these 3 little tools: success canvas and the flow matrix. And I'm just going to talk briefly about how I use these tools, at least, and then hopefully, if you want to download the Startkit, how you can then use them yourself to kind of start defining, this idea of an exercise strategy. So the first thing is a dream map, and I know I struggle with having big dreams, because I was a helper. I dreamed of helping people because that what made me feel great. And so what we were trying to do with this is, how can you kind of deconstruct this into just some simple areas for you to start thinking of. So what would you dream of creating? What do you dream of learning? What do you dream of experiencing? And what do you dream of changing? So creating is the standard place to go if you're a creative entrepreneur. You've got this idea, you've got this approach, this service you want to create, or I don't know, it's a retreat, a podcast, you know, some products, but you had this thing, you want to do that, and so that's you dream of creating something and articulating that, or you dream of gaining some knowledge. Maybe it's a language, maybe it's getting some new skills, maybe it's about learning with other people, and it's really defining what is that, or it's something you want to experience. And you really wish, you know, it's an event you want to go on, it's a holiday, or it's a being part of a group experience that someone's creating, like a summer camp, for instance. Or there's something you dream of changing, either changing in the world because you believe that something's wrong, or there's something in yourself you need to change. There's some kind of personal growth you want to create. And so it's like trying to look inside a bit. So what are these things, you know, that I might dream of doing? And starting off with that as as a place to start defining what you can focus on and what really lights you up. The next thing is understanding what is enough. How do I know that I'm not doing more than I need to? And it's this idea of defining success, not necessarily as goal, but as a feeling. And again, that can be sometimes tricky for people. And I know there's different ways of defining success, but we wanted to create a structure that you can settle into to at least start thinking about this and then owning it in your own way. And we thought about 4 areas to think about in terms of success: money, time, relationships, and impact. And we kind of relabeled them in terms of, like, for us, success feels like happy money, intentional time, authentic connection, and effortless impact. And using that as a framework, okay, right, this is what I need to commit to. It's like happy money, and money flows, I get paid my worth, I have enough to invest in myself and maybe in others. In terms of time, a lot of us, we just want to be present. You want to enjoy the time that you've got. You want to spend your time doing things that energize you. Maybe you want to spend time in nature. Maybe you want to basically change your relationship to time as well as be more productive with it. Authentic connection is really about, for me, being fully seen and heard, turning up as who we are, not playing a role, not having to bow down to someone else's needs, and really be defending those boundaries like Gemma was talking about, by being really ourselves. And because of that, we can then see others for who they really are, and then feeling supported in that space, and then working from that place of just collaborating effortlessly, having customers who just aren't just customers, but they are friends. They also maybe become colleagues. They maybe even also become suppliers to us. It's just a symbiotic relationship there, and thinking about business like that, as well as our personal relationships. And the final thing for me, which is, I think, the core of it, and the way I like to capture it, is like being paid for being me. And this idea of effortless impact, my knowledge, my skills, my experience, all of that comes together to make the impact that I'm here to make. And it doesn't have to be big impact with a big I. It could be just impact in my local community, in just my local area. It could be just with a small group of people, or it could be massive. But I intentionally choose that. And all of this is about being really intentional with the work. How being intentional about the dream, the direction, being intentional about success, knowing what is enough, knowing what success feels like. And from there, having that felt sense of a boundary of what you're connecting to. What is enough? I don't need to have more than that. And because of that, having that clarity, creating space around you so that you can just continue to do what you need to do without feeling overwhelmed and overloaded. And so the next bit is really about triaging where you are at the moment, and what you might be spending more energy than is necessary on. So you know the direction you're going, you know what it feels like when success is present, and kind of the things you need to commit to. Here is about, all right, how can I always stay in flow? And this idea of the flow matrix is just thinking about these 2 axes. One is the horizontal one, which is your ability or your capability, your expertise, going from incompetent to master, from left to right. And then the vertical axis is how much energy that activity gives you. From it drains you, or zero energy, or you get zero energy from it, and you're just basically expending energy, to actually it nourishes you because it's giving you more energy to do it. You actually finish the experience or the task wanting to do more. And then kind of like splitting this into 4 zones. The grown zone, where you're not very good at it and it drains you. The stress zone, which I feel a lot of people who are in jobs where they're either burnout, bored out, or reaching bored or reaching burnout are in, is like they know the job well, it's something they've done for ages, and it's just draining them. Yeah, and it's they have the expertise, but they don't have the passion. They've lost it. And then there's the play zone, which is essentially, I don't know how to do this, but I'm having fun with it. It's more of something I'm just like, it doesn't need to go anywhere. There's kind of like a purposeless approach to it. And then finally, oops, sorry, and I missed that. There's the flow zone, which is essentially where you feel like time is just standing still, you're stretched enough, you've got enough expertise to do it without worrying, and energy is just coming at you all the time. And then it's just using this as a way, like, what things are you doing that are draining you and you're not good at, and what things are you doing that are just you want to be doing all the time, and focusing ultimately in the flow zone and potentially in the play zone, and then trying to drop all the other stuff and making boundaries around that. And so using those three matrices or these three tools to get there. And for us, this is the core of what we do with our Vision 2020 program, trying to get people from that space of sort of like de-energized work to a place where they're actually doing work that lights them up. So apologies if I went over time.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Yeah, very good. You know, it's interesting. It's one of the biggest challenges that I see a lot of my clients have, and it's not something I feel particularly good at helping people with, is this question of what do I want? You know, people come and they'll ask me questions, well, should I do this or should I do that? But it's more a kind of life direction thing. And it's very hard to set boundaries. It's, you know, and create space if you don't know what's most important to you. Remember Tony Robbins saying once, he said, we always have time for what's most important to us, if we know what's most important to us. And that's a mighty big if these days. So it's wonderful to have sheets like that where you can start to, in different categories, think about what you want and what's most important to you. Yeah, that is fantastic. Okay, so next, coming up, I believe we've got Rebecca Van Damm, and we'll do Bradley, and then Mark Silver has just joined us. So now Rebecca, oh my gosh, so much to say. Rebecca reached out to me a number of years ago, seeing my Instagram full of memes and wondering what this crafty strategy was I had. And of course I said, I don't really have a strategy. And she said, would you be interested in one? And I said, that would be great. And so through Rebecca's help, RebeccaVanDam.com, you can check her out. She helped us think through a structure. And at the time, my Instagram had 3,500 maybe, and now it's almost 35,000. So it's, you know, 10x as a result of the strategies that she helped us put in place. All your kind of organic growth, no big spending money on ads, just figuring out a way to do it that was actually sustainable and worked and made sense, and that gets more sustainable over time. So we've had a lot of conversations about the importance of planning and strategy. And Rebecca, it's good to see you. Over to you.
Thank you so much for having me. I just need to share my screen real quick. And by the way, I always love the way you say my name. Dad, you're always like Rebecca Van Damm. It always makes me feel so cool.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Where is it? There we go. Okay, this session is entitled Block It Like It's Hot. Your calendar, your fortress, and all my contact information is here if you want to take a screenshot. And I just wanted to say real quick, Gemma, I loved the fuck it. We need more fuck it energy. And oh, Gemma's gone. Damn. And the 25-hour, all hail the 25-hour work week. I wanted to say that. And Carlos, I loved the body-centered approach. I love just prioritizing the body in everything we do, because what are we? But, well, you know, that's a bigger conversation. But anyway, okay, moving on. So I'd like to start with this is my fuck it energy. The 8+ hour workday is bullshit. I posted about this on LinkedIn about a year ago. It got a lot of traction, and I'm jokingly saying this is also known as how to make lawyers and other workaholics mad on LinkedIn, because there was a lawyer who was very mad about this post. I was very friendly, but we went into a back and forth about this, as one does. And we all know getting into fights on the internet is what will change the world. Anyway, in this conversation, he actually quoted, not quite, but he said the 8 hours of labor. He said 8 hours for everything else, and he said 8 hours of rest. But this was originally a slogan: 8 hours of labor, 8 hours of recreation, 8 hours of rest, that came from the Industrial Revolution. This is Robert Owens, and he was a socialist, and he was a good guy. He was fighting for workers' rights. And this was the slogan for, like, let's tone it down a notch on how much we're working. But the problem with this is that it assumes that they're, ooh, that's went right to the end. How did that happen? Okay, sorry guys, one moment, please. God, why? Why did it do that? Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm gonna share again. Okay. So the problem with this is that it assumes that there's a nice lady at home who's handling everything else. And we know that it doesn't really look like this. It looks like this, that actually domestic chores and childcare and handling the home is a business in and of itself. And 8 hours, who's doing the other 8 hours of labor that happens at home? A lot of us are single. A lot of us are handling both sides of the equation. And even if you're partnered, it looks more like this. And if you can have a life where somebody goes outside of the home to work and somebody stays home, awesome, amazing. But not everybody wants that life. Not everybody is afforded that life. That's just not possible for all of us. And most of us are even in this workshop right now because we want to be employed. We want to have jobs that are outside of the home. So how do we manage all of this in a realistic way? So my magic number is 6. I like a 30-hour work week. I do love a 25-hour work week. That would be amazing. But I really like to work, actually. And I have the time because I don't have kids. I have a couple of dogs, but I don't have kids. I would probably want a 20-hour work week if I had kids. So what is your magic number? And the way that we find out about this is to plan backwards. So I will explain that in a moment. So when I say block, I'm talking about 2 different things. I want to say one more thing about the 6-hour. This was my dream at the beginning of my business. And I think that this is really important that I actually part of the reason I wanted to be self-employed is because I wanted to work 6 hours. I felt as an employee that the 8-hour workday was bullshit. And I didn't understand how you were supposed to have a life and a meditation practice and enough sleep and healthy food and like all of that body-centered stuff. I didn't see how that was possible with an 8-hour workday. And I built my business around the idea of the 6-hour workday. So I say that because a lot of people go into business and they have a big dream about like what they want to accomplish. And if that is the only North Star, then you could work 12 hours a day to make that. There's a lot of erosion that could happen to make that possible, especially if you're passionate about it. And I want to say the 6 hours is aspirational because sometimes I have worked 15 hours a day, not a day, but I have worked 15-hour days in my business because of one reason or another. So this is not a perfect science, but this is the rhythm that I'm working around. Okay, so when I say block, I mean both a boundary, like a no, like block, and I also mean, oh, why did it do it again? All right, y'all are gonna see the whole thing. Okay, I'm also talking about time chunks. So 2 kinds of blocks. Block as in no, and block as in we're doing this for 2 hours or 1 hour or whatever. So my 2 tools for this are Calendly for my big no, and it could be Acuity, it could be whatever scheduling app you have going on, but I'm going to show you what my Calendly looks like. And I'm going to show you what my Google Calendar looks like, or at least a pretend version, because y'all don't get to know all my business. So let me just reshare for just a second. Did you give me a time? Are you telling me how much time I have left? Okay, 6 minutes, great. Okay, so here's a sample Google Calendar. And what I love about what Gemma said is the amber and the red. So I'm gonna just start from the top. I call this the God block. If you're atheist, you can call it the mental health block. But I don't like to, when I say time blocking, I don't like to be like, okay, I'm gonna get up, I make my coffee for 5 minutes, and then I sit down and I journal for 10 minutes, and then I don't care what I do in this hour. I might make coffee or tea and stare at a wall for an hour. I don't know. I might dance. I don't know what I'm doing in this hour, but this hour is for me, and I say God, but you could say yourself, you know, you can say whatever you want, wherever you are on the spiritual spectrum. Then I just put this here, eat and get ready, because I know like I really need to start getting ready at 7, because if I don't, I won't have time to walk the dogs. I have 2 dogs. I won't have time to walk the dogs before my 9 a.m. start day. And usually I do allow clients to schedule with me at 9. So Monday is a red boundary. No meetings on Monday. It really messes me up. I have allowed this boundary to be crossed, and it has really messed my life up. So this is a red boundary for me. And then I also like, I'm gonna go to the gym. I block a little time for getting ready and leaving so that that's marked off. My work day is 9 to 3. And then I have a bunch of stuff down here. So when I say plan backwards, I mean, I didn't start with cook. I started with lights out, because I want to get up at 6. And if I want to get up at 6, the lights have to be out at 10. And this isn't actually on my actual calendar, but I'm just showing you my thought process. So I know I want lights out at 10, which means I need to be in bed by 9 reading, which means that I need to be brushing my teeth and like hanging out with my partner by 8. I need to, if I want to watch TV, that's my window for TV. We got to be done with TV by 8. That means I need to eat at 6. It means I need to start cooking at 5. So I'm working this whole day around, you've got to be cooking at 5 to get to bed by 10. These are, the evening is amber for me. The morning is red, but the evening is amber. So a friend could interrupt this. I could have, I don't really care what happens like in the evenings, as long as I'm in bed by 10 or 11. Fridays are amber. So I say like no meetings on Friday, but occasionally I'll let people interrupt as long as it's in the morning, because if I anywhere else in the day, I won't get to my marketing. And we all know in business that that's something that will absolutely slide, that we don't treat ourselves like our own clients. And this is like my time to be my own client on Friday. I know I'm running right out of time, 3 minutes. Okay. This is like a group co-working thing I do with my clients. And all of this white space is where people are allowed to book with me. So you can see, I really only have time for 7 or 8 one-on-one sessions during the week with clients. And there's really no other time for it. I'm not an introvert. I'm actually an extrovert, but I do not hang out with anybody on Sunday. And if anybody wants to make plans with me, it's a hard no. I stay in my pajamas all day. I read books. I don't know what I do. I do my laundry. I chill. I don't leave the house on Sunday. That's a red for me. That's a red boundary. It messes up my week. Okay, so how do I make this possible that my clients can't get to me unless it's in these white zones? I have this Calendly, and you can see that I'm only available to be scheduled with Tuesday through Thursday. You can't schedule with me on Monday and Friday. So if people need to get in there on Friday, they got to email me, you know, but nobody can automatically schedule with me outside of these times, 9 to 3:15. So those are the main things that I do to keep my sanity and give myself the time that I need. And here's how you can find me. So I have a Substack. This is the main place I'm living online right now. I've been really kind of waning on Instagram. Facebook almost deleted my account. I actually just saved it today. So I'm really annoyed with Meta. And I love Substack. So I see that I have 1 minute. Thank you. It's free to subscribe, but if you pay $10 a month, I'll give you a weekly content prompt. I do a monthly live 1-hour Q&A, and I do quarterly workshops. So it's a low cost way of getting some of my, of getting access to my work. I also have one-on-one offerings and stuff like that you can check out on my website. Here are all the ways to get in touch with me. And again, like I am most active on Substack right now. So feel free to take a screenshot of this. And that's my time. Thank you so much.
Amazing, right under the wire. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay, next up, we got Bradley Morris. Bradley is somebody I've known for a long, long time, maybe almost 20 years at this point. Back in the day in Victoria, we were both Well, I was doing this business, he was doing some other stuff, and we've partnered on a ton of things over the years. A brother from another mother. So enjoy working with Bradley. Does incredible work around helping people craft and tour their signature workshop. The notion of creating a 60-minute workshop that you can take on the road, and made it big with a presentation he did called How to Market Without Social Media, because I think 8 years ago he got off social media entirely and has built his business without it. So Bradley, over to you.
Now we go. Thanks. Yeah, this is super fun. I'm hoping that the way I can bring mine around themifying your schedule can help tie some of these pieces together, because I really relate to the lifestyle choices that have been mentioned. I loved what Rebecca was showing with the calendar, that I really resonate with how you block off your time. I am a big time blocker, and it's a piece of what I want to share today. But I've been 20 years full-time creative entrepreneurship, and I would say my first decade was uh, just kind of flying and flowing and not really grounding into concrete rhythm and flow. But I have three companies now: Magic Media, Magic Kids, Play Chi Ball. Each of those has many individual projects inside of them. I have a team of 14 that work with me, and so I was going insane with all of the shit that I had to manage. I would finish my work days. I'd be going from creative writing, like story writing with my son, to projects with Magic Media clients, over to like delegation, to answering emails, like all of the things. And I'd finish my workday and I would literally be dizzy. My head would be spinning, and I had to figure out, like, how do I do all the things? I know I can do all the things. I am doing all the things, but how do I do it so that at the end of the day, I still have energy for my family, energy for myself, to do my passions, all the things. And like everybody else, I'm trying to do my ideal lifestyle. My work days are typically 6.5 hours. That I've got it down to, even with everything else going on inside all the businesses. And so I came up with the concept of themifying my days. So I'm just gonna share my screen as well. So, we all have a lot of shit that we're trying to do on our daily life. Obviously, understanding what's most important is a really important thing in this journey. Knowing like what you want to do on the daily basis, how are you going to live your best life? What are the biggest priorities you have? What can you say no to? What can you say yes to? All these things, I think, come before you start to time block yourself. You got to get clear on that stuff. So I'm glad that was mentioned, because, we all have to do self-care, families, passions, hobbies, writing. We have coaching clients or teaching workshops, producing, editing, newsletters, publishing. If we have a team, you have to have meetings with your teammates, you have to have meetings with your clients, marketing, outreach, networking, time to think, time to pray, etc. That's a lot. It's a lot of stuff that we have to do as entrepreneurs. And so for me, I gave myself, just like the time blocking idea, I gave myself certain themes in my calendar and my days of the week, because what I found is I was trying to wear too many hats for too many projects in an individual day, and it was basically like leaky chi. I wasn't bringing my full potency to the projects that I was working on any given day, because I would work on 6 or 8 different things in a day, and then I'd be like, wow, okay, what did I actually do here? Whereas I found, if I can themify my days, then I'm wearing less hats on a given day, and I could put more of my focus, energy, and power into that specific thing, and not have to switch from like creative work to administrative work, etc. And I will also say, as Tad mentioned, I've been off social media for 8 years. I highly recommend everybody gets off social media and just focuses on relationships, because the day I stopped social media, my hours went from 10 plus hour a day work days to like 6 to 7 hour a day work days. So social media is a big waste of time for the majority of people that are just posting and hoping. It's like playing the slot machines, hoping one day you'll buy your mansion. Okay, so the time blocking piece, I don't feel like I need to go too deeply into that. So we're going to focus mostly on the themification. Once you get your themes for your days, then you can start to time block. So I'm going to go through what an average day in the life of me looks like. My Mondays are my planning, communication, delegation, administration days. I found when I was taking coaching calls on Mondays, I was feeling anxious before because I felt like I needed to actually get all the balls rolling for my different projects and my teams. And so every day I'm an early morning riser. So I get up and I play golf 200 plus days a year. So I either play golf, hit the gym. Fortunately, my golf course lets me walk my dog on it. So I got to walk. My dog's got to walk. I might as well carry golf clubs with me. This time of year, I'm hitting the gym most days and walking before that. But then I try and schedule family time around 8 o'clock until about 9:15. And then I usually start my workday between 9 and 9:30. From 9 to 11, I just go schedule my success. I plan my week. I come up with the priorities. I delegate to my team. I have 4 team meetings from 11 to 1. And then I get into work time of like, okay, I just had all these meetings. What did I say I would do? And then I go do that. I try not to schedule any other meetings outside of my internal team on Mondays if I can help it. Tuesdays, this is my coaching day. So I've got my Magic Mind coaching community, my membership. So I do a 2-hour coaching session with my community. I always prepare some form of opening sermon or exercise or process for the people, and then we do coaching. And then my afternoons are available for marketing, meetings, coaching. If I'm doing interviews, if I'm teaching a signature workshop, that's when I do it, is Tuesday. And then Tuesday nights are my time from 3:30 onwards. I'm just in my own flow. I go play Chi-Ball at the park for our Chi-Ball league. And then I get the evenings to myself to hang out with a buddy, go for a sauna, play evening golf. It's summertime, go to a beach, climb a mountain, whatever I want to do is my night. And Wednesdays are my creative days where I'll do writing, newsletters, video content. I'll teach. I'll schedule if I'm looking to build partnerships. I'll do those types of meetings on Wednesdays. Wednesdays, I really enjoy my Wednesdays because it's always kind of it's a flex sort of day for me, so I can do a lot of different things on a Wednesday. Thursdays are exactly like Tuesdays. It's the exact same flow for me. I do my Magic Mind session, I coach, I do meetings, interviews, teach, etc. It's the day I'll do my projects, whatever, all the big stuff that I have to do. If there's a Magic Media partnership that we have and I got to go through, launch emails, planning, etc., I'm doing all that stuff on that day. And then Fridays are my Magic Kids Day. So the morning is devoted to production. So we'll do tons of audio stories. We're doing the best audio stories on the planet. Any of you parents out there, you should check out Magic Kids app. But we'll do all the production. I'll bring my voice actors into the studio. We'll do all of that. I'll do marketing meetings. We're working on strategic partnerships for Magic Kids. So that's the day I book all of that stuff. And then I have a writer's room with my team of writers, and we write for 3 hours in the afternoons. And then to decompress from the week so that I can actually be present for the weekend, I'll go do a big hike, golf, gym, whatever I need to do to decompress. And then usually Fridays we have friends over for dinner, go to friends for dinner. And then my Saturdays are dad venture time with my son. So I'll get up, I'll get the morning to myself, I'll go play golf, hang out with a friend, have a hike, and then my son and I always just spend the whole day together. And my wife gets the time to herself on Saturdays, and Sundays are home days, just like you, Rebecca. It's like we stay home, we work in the garden, the Wi-Fi is unplugged, we don't look at our phones, the phones stay in the studio here, so we don't not checking anything. It just doesn't matter. It's just friends. Or it's just family time. We might have friends over, like come have a bonfire or something, but it's pretty chill. So my suggestion to people is look at your weekly tasks. What are the things that you know you need to do every single week? Are you writing a newsletter, making content, podcast, YouTube? Do you do coaching calls? What are the things that are repeatable tasks that happen every single week? Make a big list and then categorize those tasks. Which ones fall under the idea of creativity work? Which ones are administrative work? Which ones have to do with team and delegation? Which ones have to do with marketing? For all the people that did the signature workshop training last year, your biggest hurdle is going to be overcoming your fear of rejection. If you want to do 20, 25 signature workshops, this year, you need to send out 200 plus emails to potential partners and hosts, which means you're going to resist that shit because you're going to be rejected 90+% of the time with all those emails you send out, which means you need to block off 2 to 3+ hours a week to be doing that outreach, or hire somebody to be managing your signature workshop tours. So all the tasks, give them themes, and then figure out what days of the week you're going to do specific tasks, so that on each day of the week you're wearing less hats, which allows you to be more focused. And if you can be more focused, you'll get way more stuff done. You'll have way more fun. You'll find that if right now you're doing the 8-hour workday, that you can actually fit it in 6 or 6.5 hours, if you're focused and efficient with your time. And then also I just keep a list of like, here's all the random shit that needs to get done. And then on my flex days, if I'm like sitting there wondering what I should do, instead of going over to YouTube and zoning out on stand-up comedy, I'll go to the list of like, here's all the random stuff that needs to get done, and I'll just tackle that stuff. Um, Having a background in playing professional golf as my hobby, I feel like every day when I go to work, I'm playing a golf tournament. It's like, it's this intense focus, but I get it all done. And then I have more time for my family and for the things that I want to be doing outside of my work here. So hopefully that was helpful. Themify your days, and you will find yourself more effective and efficient to get shit done. And to learn more about me, I didn't have a final slide because I wasn't prepared, but magicmedia.com. I do a newsletter a couple times a week from my coaching sessions. And so there's lots of stuff on just being an entrepreneur that comes into your inbox every week. The end.
Amazing. Thank you, Bradley. All right, last certainly but not least, we've got Mark Silver from heartofbusiness.com. Mark is one of my oldest colleagues, and not that he's the oldest, but he's we've known each other the longest. And but I would consider him the elder in the room here. Mark is somebody who brings a spiritual angle to marketing in a way that is so deeply needed. I've seen Mark again and again in very intense conversations, dealing with intense topics, and being the one who's bringing the much needed sanity and beauty and care and love to the room. Entrepreneurship is incredibly tough, brings up all of our stuff, and certainly around this issue of creating space and boundaries. There's a lot that's tied into this, and Mark told me what he wanted to talk about, so I won't give a spoiler. But Mark, he's again my marketing brother from another mother. When I came across his work, I thought, oh, I'm not alone, because I'd felt alone for so long, like I was the only one doing this stuff. And then I discovered Mark, and we've been pals ever since. So, Mark, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Tad. Bismillahir-Rahmanir Rahim, the name of one most compassionate, most merciful, most kind. So touched. I've been, I arrived a little late because today was one of several afternoons that I'm on kid pickup. We've got twin teens, and they're not quite driving yet. Not that they would have their own car to be gone all day at school with the car, even if they were. So much of what was shared is so useful, and I recognize pieces of what I do. I use Calendly. I block time. I have themes. I have days blocked off. I work, usually 5 to 6 hour day. All of these things, and I also, in addition to having family, we have a homestead here, 14 acres in central Pennsylvania, where we're trying to grow fruit trees and other kinds of food forest, just trying to produce food and contribute to food security in our area. And I'm a volunteer with the Horn Farm Center for Regenerative Agriculture. There's a lot going on, and I love doing woodworking as a hobby, et cetera, et cetera. And we also have a large dog. So it's a full life. And the piece that I want to add in is not another system. because, you know, different systems meet different peoples, and systems are really important. And I have my own, and, you know, I don't want to shit on systems. They're important. But one of the things that I think that we keep hearing over and over is like, oh, you have to prioritize, you have to be able to say no, you have to be able to like focus on what's really important. And one of the things that I've had to come to grips with, and that our clients have to come to, I think all of us have to come to grips with, is that prioritizing is not just about dropping things out that are unimportant and only focusing on what's important. Prioritizing is coming against the reality that we can't do everything, and that having a sane life, having, you know, caring for our capacity, caring for our health, caring for the people we care for, means letting go of things that actually are really important and worthy of care. And that brings up grief and all kinds of emotions. There's so much that I would love to do that I can't get to. That's actually really important. There's ways that I want to be additionally involved in our community. You know, there's ways that I additionally want to engage with all kinds of things. I've got a big woodworking project out, you know, that's waiting on me, and I can't get to it as much as I want to. I just want to say that if you are taking on a system to help create boundaries and space for yourself, but doing it unconsciously, probably with the intention of just recreating this capitalist productivity bullshit that says that we have to be going all the time, and just using it as a system to try to do all the things somehow, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work, and it's going to be painful. But if you are willing, and I'm not always willing, sometimes it's really painful, but if we're willing to face the grief of letting go of things that are important and worthy of care, because we recognize our own limits and our own limits to capacity, then you almost don't need a system. And that's not really fair, because systems and structures are so important. I'd be so screwed if I didn't have a skeleton, right? It's like you need structures to support us, and we need and different personalities need different kinds of structures, because some structures just don't fit some personalities, and other structures fit. You know, we need to find the one that resonates with us.
Mark,
But if we, yeah, go ahead,
no,
Tad.
because I think what this probably brings up for a lot of people, well, myself included, is there's this sense of, but I'm selfish. The world is burning, the world is on fire. I mean, there's causes that need, my clients need me, my family needs me, and I could do that. I could help. And if I don't, then I'm selfish.
Yes, yes. That is definitely something that comes up, and it's what keeps us going, and keeps us in this cycle. And one of the things that I like to talk with my clients about, a lot of our clients, you know, have different identities or different groups that are not mainstream identities, you know, that are at effect of some of the prejudices and systemic injustices in our culture. And we can't undo systemic injustice through individual action. And that's what the system asks of us, is it asks our most vulnerable people to burn out, to hurt themselves, to make up for the ways that the system and the structure and the culture doesn't care for us. I've heard our culture described not as a culture, but as a collection of trauma responses. You know, the modern culture. You know, whether you're a woman or you're queer, or you're a person of color, or you're anybody in this culture, we were saying, you know, it's all on you. And you, if you don't make up for all of the things that are missing, then you're doing it wrong. And we can't afford to lose any more of us. If I'm going to just break down in tears and meet one more woman who has adrenal issues or has kind of burnt, just like their health is totally ground down from trying to do everything because that's what they told that they have to do. Or, all of the diseases that attack people in various communities of color because of the chronic stress of dealing with that. And the ways that, even white men, people that look like you and me, are constantly shutting down our emotions and feeling like we have to soldier on. I want to say, I've done this business for a very long time, but in a previous life, in an earlier career, I was a paramedic in the San Francisco Bay Area in Oakland, California. And things are screwed up out there. Things can be very, very, very bad. My paramedic instructor told us, she said, no matter how bad the scene is, there's always time to check your own pulse. Something that has stayed with me for decades at this point because I'm in my late 50s. And that was in my early 20s. And so it's selfish in a certain way to kind of take on the saviorism, thinking that somehow our own individual effort is going to save the world. We need more joy. We need people full of life. We need us to be full and healthy. We need us to be able to show up when the shit really does hit the fan with our neighbors and etc. It's like as we're talking now, there are fires burning down huge sections of Los Angeles. Earlier in this timeline, North Carolina was wiped out. There's places being hit in other parts of the globe. The Palestinian genocide that there's so much. And if we run on this sense of urgency and emergency and, oh my God, we have to, like if we're running around like a 911 responder all the time, we're done. It's just recreating the same culture and we're the ones that are going to be the casualties. And we need us. We need us full of joy. And so I just want to invite us in to the grief of letting go of things that are worthy and worthy of care, important and worthy of care, so that we can prioritize, so that we can bring our arms around and fully embrace what our hearts are calling us to do, where the love really is, knowing that it's not just up to us, that it's not up to me individually or you individually, it's up to all of us collectively. And if we each lift what we can lift, there's so much that can happen. Please, please, please be willing to face the grief. Find the structure that holds you up like your skeleton does and doesn't have to misshape you because you're fitting into somebody else's system that doesn't quite fit you. There's many different systems. You'll find one that fits. Let yourself cry the tears that I know that I cry on a regular basis because of the way our world is burning. And then find the joy and dig in. Build your business, love the people you love, engage with what you can engage with. And let yourself sleep and nap and eat healthy and get hugs.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, amen. It's a real invitation to look at this thing that you could do, that you might be, in Carlos's map. In my own words, it'd be like you're passionate about it and you're competent. You're both, and you can't do it. It's not just I'm not good at it and I don't care about it and I have to give it up, as Mark is saying, and that's prioritizing, but it might be in that upper quadrant and still we can't do it. And I found myself a number of times just pausing and just really feeling sad, like, oh man. Instead of trying to skip over it, instead of like, well, I just can't do it, but just to pause and actually, because I think the grief is the tenderizer. The grief is the thing that makes us human. And the bypassing and the, well, I can't, there can be a hard kind of shell we develop around ourselves to deal with. We just don't want to feel the grief. But we don't need any more hard humans out there, rigid and calcified. So bless you all for coming and bless everybody for listening. You can find these people. We'll put the websites in the comments below the video on YouTube, marksilverheartofbusiness.com. You've gotten a flavor of what all these people do, so I hope you will consider checking them out. And we'll see you all down the road. Take care, everyone.